Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Beyond the Arc. I'm Ashley Nicole Moss. It's me and John Gonzalez holding things down for you. Before the show, John was schooling me on all things California weather because I'm going to be going to Joshua Tree very soon. I don't know if I should be packing cold stuff, hot stuff, ayahuasca. I don't know what's going on here.
The answer is yes. Yeah, Aaron and I answered the exact same thing at the exact same time. The answer is yes. Maybe not the ayahuasca. That's not so much for me, but perhaps for Aaron Rodgers. But the other part of it is, yeah, it's going to be hot during the day and then cold at night. But it's beautiful. You're going to have a great time.
Listen, if I get abducted by aliens, coyotes, make sure you just fill my replacement with somebody who also has curly hair. That's all I ask.
This is 2 days in a row that we've had coyote talk on the program, by the way. Bill and I did that yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
We also had alien talk on the show when you weren't here because we know how much you dislike that. So we had that conversation without you. But today, we're going to be having a lot of conversations. It is Top 5 Thursday. So we have our Top 5 list. I'm not going to spoil and tell you what the list is, but if you're on it, it's not a good thing. I'll tell you that. That's how we'll forecast it, tease it, foreshadow it, whatever you want to refer to it as. We're going to talk some Draymond because he is the gift that keeps on giving, and it's a gift that you may want to return. We're going to talk Philly. A lot of news coming out of your hometown of Philadelphia. Some good, some bad, some profanities, perhaps. We're going to dive into that. And obviously, I don't know if you guys have seen this. There's a big offer from the Big Three to Caitlin Clark. And although it's a lot of money on the line, some people are not happy by the offer. We'll tell you why. But first, let's talk Draymond, because Draymond brings the drama once again. The Warriors faced the Orlando Magic last night, but that wasn't the storyline. The storyline was that Draymond was ejected from the game less than 4 minutes into the game. That might be his personal record after picking up 2 technical fouls for arguing with the officials. I wonder, do we have the video of that, Aaron?
Draymond's got to be careful here. Yeah. You're already down Kuminga. Well, Steph got 1 T early. Steve just took a timeout. Yeah. And you want to get away from Ray Acosta so this doesn't grow.
You got multiple guys from the Warriors bench just coming over just to make sure Draymond doesn't go over the line here. You got to watch out. He's letting them hear it. The officials are kind of letting him speak and say his piece. He got another tag.
AZ's gone. He just got ejected. With 8:24 remaining in the first.
That's a huge blow in this type of game
against this team.
Well, making sure he didn't go over the line didn't work because he went over the line and he got ejected. But the bigger storyline is not so much Draymond's ejection, but more so Steph Curry's reaction. Check this out. I mean, it is pretty dramatic. You know, he obviously looked very distraught. He obviously looked very frustrated. Some people were kind of, arguing whether or not he was crying. But his post-game comments were probably the most revealing on his true feelings on the matter. Let's take a listen.
What did you think of the Draymond ejection?
All I say is we need him. He knows that. We all know that. So whatever it takes to keep him on the floor, and be available, that's what's got to happen, especially at this point in the year. So it's a tough way to start the game, but I am extremely proud of every single person that stepped foot on the floor tonight and responded the way that they did, because back to back, the team as physical as they are, we got contributions from everybody, and it was a beautiful team effort to respond the way that we did and get this win, because we went and took it, and that's a big sign for us, a sign of growth, to be able to respond that way.
The camera showed you pretty frustrated when he did get ejected. Are you just thinking at that time what you just said, essentially?
Yeah, we know how important this season is, or this part of the season is, and our ability to get into a rhythm and secure a playing opportunity and give ourselves a shot. You don't want to have self-inflicted wounds when it comes to that. And we all care. We all are passionate about the game and our chances to have something to play for down the stretch. So you give everything you got to this game, and that's the emotion.
A lot to unpack here. I mean, obviously, Steph, kind of a master of his words, didn't come out and just, fully blame Draymond, which I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have blamed him if he had done so. It was more of like, he can't do that. He knows we need them. But on the plus side, I'm very happy that our team was able to pull out a win. But I think the bigger conversation here is Draymond's inability to put the team first a lot of these times, and just how much of a domino effect it is. In this situation, it didn't matter because they still got the win, but there are a lot of situations where that will not be the case, and that has not been the case. And you have to feel for Steph because he's not as vocal, maybe as rough and tough as some other players would have been on Draymond. I think he really tries to give Draymond the benefit of the doubt. But with all relationships, there's got to be a breaking point. And you can kind of see that breaking point happening in real time on the court, where he's visibly frustrated, almost to the point of tears.
Past the breaking point, right? I mean, look, this was an all-timer even for Draymond. He got tossed out of a game in under 4 minutes, arguing a call that he wasn't even involved in. Like, as Draymond taught, like, look, you put Rudy Gobert in a headlock, that's one thing, right? Or you like roundhouse slap Yusuf Nurkic, that's one thing. But he got tossed for something that he wasn't even involved in, and the game had barely started. Producer Aaron, a well-known longtime Warriors fan, was beside himself, as was Steph. I mean, we saw his reaction afterwards. For those who aren't watching on YouTube, I mean, he was like, he put his head down, he put his head in his jersey. Kerr came over to console him. And you're right, Ash, it didn't hurt them last night. They did end up beating a Magic team that's a really good defensive team and has been all season long, and good for them and good for Curry for putting them on his back, but they shouldn't be in that situation. I was on HQ last night with Bill. We were talking about it, and Bill's like, Draymond's a problem. The problem, though, is that Draymond is also the answer. When Draymond's on the court for them, he unlocks so many different things. And that's why it's so frustrating for these guys, because when he's out there and he's not being Draymond, he's just playing basketball, he unlocks so many things for this team. And when he's not out there, it is a huge problem for them. And it was again last night, even though they won.
I think it's also frustrating because it's like you kind of expect at some point that Draymond will get it. And it's not to say that he needs to change, right? Because to your point, one of Draymond's best assets as a defensive player is kind of his unruliness. It's kind of his, his lack of predictability, if you will. It's his ability to be unpredictable. It's his ability to do the things, get down and dirty if he has to. But with that talent also comes the responsibility of kind of figuring out how to filter it and how to utilize it. And you would think after the Jordan Poole situation and how that was just a domino effect to the rest of the team, that maybe he would have figured it out. After the Rudy Gobert, chokehold, not chokehold, depending on where you are in that argument, and he went ahead and did all this work that the NBA made him do. And he came back and he says, I have to be better. I have to do better. And for a while, you saw glimmers of that. And then he does something like this where, to your point, it didn't even involve you. Like, you could have just stayed out of it. And you even see in the video of Steph kind of like walking up to him and, like, I believe tapping him on the side, like, come on, like, don't do this. And he does it anyway.
It was useless. And I want to be clear here. The antics is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about him being beneficial to that team. What I'm talking about, I mean, yes, sure. Like, can he get in guys' heads and talk and jaw and whatever? Fine. I think that's of middling value, if any. What I'm talking about is he unlocks that team the way he plays basketball. He is an otherworldly passer. He sees the court so very well. He's awesome in transition. He's an awesome rebounder. He's an excellent defender, probably their best defender, 1 through 5. He can do so many different things. He can be point Draymond at times. The way he plays basketball, I love watching him play, but the nonsense is where I take my leave and where they clearly take their leave too. Last night was of zero value. None. He didn't provide, like, sometimes when he's doing stuff and you're like, okay, I guess maybe he's kind of getting in somebody's head. Again, that's not really for me. And you could make an argument about it. Last night, there's no argument. That was completely and utterly useless. And that's the kind of thing where he goes, oh, I'm going to take some time away. I'm going to learn my lesson, whatever. He's never going to learn his lesson.
Yeah.
It's never been learned. There's been a zillion lessons and zero things learned from them.
There's a few things there's a lot of things that are worrisome about this. I mean, for starters, you go back to the conversation that Kerr was having with the media, and a lot of people were kind of on the fence about, there was, 50-50, depending on what side of the argument you were on, when he was talking about, look, I'm not going to go ahead and play Steph 33 minutes instead of 30, because if that 3 really makes a difference, we have bigger problems. And then something like this happens, and you realize why Steph has to be rode so hard in this team, on this team, is because things like this happen. And if Chris Paul, if Steph Curry, a guy you have played with your entire career, you have won championships with, you've been to the top of the mountaintop, you know what he has meant to this team, you know what he has sacrificed for this team. If that is not enough to calm you down and to get you to see the bigger picture of things, the window closes every single year these guys get older. If that is not enough for Draymond to take a step back and say, Steph doesn't deserve this. If anybody on that team doesn't deserve it, it's Steph Curry. That's not enough. That's a huge problem. Like, that means that you are such a selfish player that nothing else in that point, in that period of time, matters except you getting your point across. And that's a problem.
Never has mattered, never will matter. And Steph is a saint. I mean, he really is.
He's better than me.
He's had there is a 0% chance that I would keep my mouth shut in year whatever this is of Draymond being Draymond. Like,
right.
Going back to, what is it now, 8 years ago, when during the finals, he ended up, basically punching LeBron in his area. Like, there's been so many incidents where you're like, Draymond, what are you doing, man? You're killing us. Like, you're such a good basketball player. Just stick to that. And everybody's tried it, right? Kerr's tried it. Steph has certainly tried it. The league has tried it. Adam Silver has tried it. The media has tried it. It's never going to change. It's always going to be that this is the way he is, and it's a detriment to this team. And yeah, Steph is an absolute saint. I would have sounded off on him many, many times years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's just another tier to this level of drama because, as we have been talking about for the past few weeks now, the Rockets are right behind the Warriors for that last play-in spot. So it just adds another insult to injury where you see Draymond kind of acting a fool in a game that either could have gone either way when, one of your best players is off the court. And once again, the responsibility is on Steph Curry's shoulder to kind of lead the ship. It's just not smart basketball when you have those Houston Rockets knocking and trying to chip away at that spot that you're barely holding on to.
I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but on social media last night after the Rockets beat OKC, and OKC was without SGA, but still a good win for the Rockets, 10 in a row. Tari Eason, who has played all of 22 games this season and is out for the rest of the year and didn't start any of those games either. He was on social media mocking the Warriors, being like, doing the whole Warriors come out and play thing from the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Rockets won all of it, and the Warriors won none of it. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
that was a pretty good rendition.
Thank you. I actually saw that movie for the first time like last year.
Classic.
And I was like, oh, I get it now. Like the chant, it makes sense. Listen, another team that's dealing with some things, sometimes good things, sometimes bad things. This time it's a little bit of both, and that's your Philadelphia 76ers, because in a highly controversial game, the Clippers pull out a win on the road in Philly. 108-107. We'll dive into why it was controversial a little bit later in the show, but it was James Harden's first game back to Philly since being traded to the Clippers. And he was kind of playing a little game of, I don't know what I did. Listen to this.
What do you think of the fan reaction and all the booing, though?
I mean, I expected it. I really don't know what it was about, but I expected it. And so it is what it is. I don't even know why they were booing. I don't think. If you ask them, they probably don't know why they were booing.
With months of perspective now, has anything changed about your feelings about how things?
Nah, like it's. I guess you look at it in like a whole, like in life, and it's like things that you want or may feel like should happen and they don't happen. And it's like, all right, cool. What's next? And obviously, people always have a commentary on it or their side or an opinion just because they're outside looking in, but. For me personally, I felt like I did everything I needed to do in the sense of the year prior, taking myself off the max to help the team get better for this city, and for myself, obviously, but to win a championship. So things didn't work out. I wanted to get paid. They weren't talking. So, it is what it is. Now you move on. Everybody's happy. Life is good. And everybody looking forward.
You think someday that you and Daryl will patch things up?
No.
No?
He also, after his hell no, was asked by a reporter later on if he has spoken to Joel Embiid since being traded to the Clippers. He also says he has not. John, as a Philly native, James Harden says he doesn't know why they were booing. The fans don't even know why they're booing. James, they know why they're booing, and you know why they're booing. I need you to stop. You know what's going on here.
Yeah, a couple things about that. I mean, James Harden was in Philly for like a year and a half. I am of that place. You can take me out of the city, but I will always be from Philadelphia. Give us a little credit. I can promise you, to a person in Philadelphia, we always know why we're booing. It's in our DNA. It is a natural default position. You want to know why we're booing, James? Let me help you and educate you. But you know what? Here's the other thing. He's being disingenuous because James Harden is also a very smart guy. He knows exactly why he was getting booed. And part of it is, the antics when he was in China and doing the whole Daryl Morey's a liar and whatever. But even putting that aside, here's why you want to strip it all away. Here's why you got booed. Showed in game 6 and 7 against the Boston Celtics. You said that you took yourself off the max contract. That's also a little not exactly the right situation because nobody was giving you the max contract. But let's just say we'll give you credit for that because he did come back and play on the deal in the hopes of getting a new one. You didn't, showed. You said that you were doing it to win a championship. How'd that go, dude? You didn't get out of the second round. That's why you got booed. And then you forced your way out of the city after forcing your way to the city. So, I mean, as these things go and as booing situations happen in Philadelphia, like for example, Ben Simmons, it kind of felt like it was a little half-hearted by my brethren back in Philadelphia. He deserved to get booed, but everybody was kind of like, he's not even really worth it. So, good. You enjoying your time with the Clippers who are now cratering? Have a good time.
Any surprise when he says, I mean, not so much about the Daryl Morey situation. He said, no, hell no. But any surprise about the Joel Embiid situation where he says that he hasn't spoken to Embiid since being traded to the Clippers? I mean, granted, Embiid did nothing to him. If anything, Embiid relied on him heavily, when he goes down those few games, and the responsibility is now on James Harden. And I remember throughout that entire tenure where, people were, the minute James Harden landed in Philly and after his first bad game, it's like, oh, James Harden's the same old James. Joel Embiid went to bat for James Harden several times during his tenure as a 76er. So this is not somebody who was not in your corner. I remember PJ Tucker did the same thing when he didn't show up to training camp. And everyone was like, look, James Harden needs to, put himself first in this situation. We get it. We support him. So it is a little weird that you haven't spoken to Joel Embiid in any capacity since you left, especially when he was in your corner. I feel like 95% of your time as a 76er.
Yeah, I guess I don't think it's that big a deal because Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, a bunch of the guys, Tobias Harris, they're all asked, well, not Embiid, but the other guys who were playing yesterday were asked about James Harden yesterday, and they all had good things to say about him as a teammate and playing with him. Look, it didn't work out with James Harden. I was excited when they got him, especially because the fact that Daryl Morey got anything for Ben Simmons in retrospect, it was a coup. So they got James Harden. They took a shot at it. It cratered. Now he plays in Los Angeles. Fine. Godspeed. Good luck. I don't think it's going to work out for you. And I can't wait to see what happens in the offseason, not just with James Harden, but also with Paul George, because now there are these reports of potentially the Clippers might be out on him too. The Clippers have a lot to figure out, and James Harden is one of those things that they have to figure out. And I'm just glad that when it comes to figuring out things related to James Harden, the Sixers aren't involved in that anymore.
Well, you mentioned the Clippers and Philadelphia in terms of Paul George, and there is a belief, a report came out about 2 hours ago, that there is a belief that the Clippers are unwilling to meet Paul George's expectations for his next contract. And quote, the Sixers are closely monitoring the situation, hoping the Clippers let George slip away. I mean, John, one, how would you like to have PG-13 in a Sixers jersey? And 2, I mean, we keep speaking about how much the Clippers have invested into at least the duo of Kawhi and Paul George, ignoring, the guys that joined after the new arena that they're building, how much they have invested monetarily to make this situation work, because it was supposed to kind of revive the Clippers organization since the Lob City era. If you let Paul George walk, does that not set you back several steps, the steps you're trying to avoid being set back to?
Well, they're already taking some steps back, right? I mean, they were a championship contender, and now all of a sudden, who knows what they are? But this is something that's like gaining some traction. A week ago, Bill and I were talking about this. John Hollinger first reported it, that the Clippers might be looking to that PG might be looking to maybe leave the Clippers. And it was kind of assumed after Kawhi signed his extension back in January that, okay, this is just a matter of time. They re-signed Kawhi, they're going to re-sign PG, and then they're going to figure out how to place the other pieces around him. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, maybe PG wants to go. And the Sixers would be an obvious potential destination because they're one of the few teams that would have the cap space to sign him. I'm not going to get into all of it because I know we have to go to break, but they could have as much as $65 million in cap space available this offseason, which means they could potentially max out PG and still have money left over to sign some other players. So it's intriguing. It's something definitely to take a look at and keep our eyes on, because as the Clippers continue to falter and stumble a little bit, I wonder if not only the Clippers are wondering, does this work, if PG is also wondering if this works.
Well, listen, if you guys don't remember, they also traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and every draft pick they had for Paul George to OKC. So this would just be another shot in the foot for the Clippers organization. When we get back after this quick break, it is Top 5 Thursday, and John and I are breaking down a very specific Top 5 list that, trust me, you do not want to find your favorite team on. We'll be right back.
For the last 4 years, I've been a prisoner of this hotel.
G-sharp, I believe.
Why are they keeping you here? Why do they let you live?
Most of my friends are dead. My house was seized and burned.
You must never leave. If you do, I'll be waiting.
They can take away everything. But they can't take away who you are.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Ashley here, John here. And like I said, it is Top 5 Thursday. And this Thursday, we are breaking down our top 5 fraud list. Now, by definition, a fraud is a person or thing intended to deceive others, typically by unjustifiably claiming or being credited with accomplishments or qualities. So that's a little bit.
Are you reading a dictionary definition?
Yeah, you think I knew that off the top of my head?
All right.
I did well in my
SATs.
SATs.
New York and I'm Philly. Everybody knows what a fraud is.
Listen, I did well in my SATs, not that well. I am watching Suits now, so like the word fraud is something that pops up constantly when talking about Mike Ross. So it's like my favorite word of the month right now.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna ruin the show if nobody's seen it, but phenomenal series. Like I cannot believe I didn't watch this when this was actually on TV.
It's hot now. Everybody's rewatching it.
It's so good. So we are going to go ahead and break down our top 5 fraud list. Now we expanded this. It's not just teams. It could be specific players. It can be specific coaches. It's anything or anyone in the NBA. So I'm going to go ahead and share my list. First, we're going to go 5 to 1. My number 5 is this my? Yes, here we go. The Phoenix Suns are my 5th on my fraud list here. All right, so the Phoenix Suns are a fraud because of this. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, huge fans of those guys, so I'm definitely not calling them frauds, but I think as an overall organization, as an overall team, they're fraudulent. This was a team that was supposed to look a lot better this time around than they did last year. Currently, they are outside of the playoffs once again, in the play-in at the 7th seed. And I just think that they're fraudulent because they keep trying to cheat the system, and understandably so. Kevin Durant's not getting any younger, but they're cheating the system and they keep failing at it. They keep trying to go ahead and compete in the Western Conference to be a championship contender, and they keep falling short in some way, shape, or form. This time, I think the biggest question mark about this team is the lack of chemistry between their quote unquote big three. So, Phoenix Suns, you are number 5 on my top 5 frauds list. Number 4, a guy we just finished talking about, James Harden, you are a fraud. I feel like this is very self-explanatory, but the biggest reason for me is not the lack of talent from James Harden, because I think that when we talk about James Harden, you can say a lot of things, but when he's playing at his best, he reminds you why he is one of the best to ever do it. But it's his character, and it's the fact that he constantly, continuously will show you that as much as he likes to pretend that he is different, that he is revived, that he is rejuvenated, that he has turned over a new leaf, he is still the same old James Harden. And I am just waiting for the playoff series of the Clippers versus whoever it may be for everyone to see that James Harden is who we thought James Harden was when it comes to the playoffs. Number 3, it's the Milwaukee Bucks, specifically because of Doc Rivers. Now, we talk about Doc Rivers a lot on this show, and Bill specifically does not. I think that I just don't trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs. I think Giannis, Dame, obviously exceptional talent, Chris Middleton. We do talk about them a lot on this show, and I say all the time, my biggest concern from them is their health or lack thereof when it comes time for it to go ahead and approach the postseason, and how healthy those guys will be as a unit. I think you cannot win a playoff series without at least Giannis being healthy 100% if possible. But Chris Middleton and Giannis not in the lineup in any capacity, definitely problematic. And I just don't trust Doc Rivers to figure out how to get it done. Number 2, Draymond Green. I mean, this is easy. This is a man who, quote unquote, took anger management classes and still has a lot of anger issues, is still unable to put his own anger aside for the betterment of his team. We are talking about a man who is in his mid-30s and still acts like he's a rookie in the NBA. The fact that you made Wardell Curry cry, allegedly, in a basketball game, a televised basketball game, I want to fight Draymond myself, because how dare you? Steph Curry, like you said, John, he is a saint. He does nothing wrong, and he deserves better than Draymond and his fraudulent promises and his fraudulent empty promises, if you will. And I am tired of his antics. And last but not least, the Los Angeles Clippers. Forever the stepchild of the greater city of LA. But the bigger issue is that you have a absolutely phenomenal on paper Hall of Fame team, and you cannot figure out how to win games. I know you tricked us, Clippers, in that little span of time between January, a little bit after the All-Star break. You had a lot of us thinking that we were wrong and you guys figured out the formula. But you know what? Things will always show themselves in the light, and you guys are looking extra funny in the light. Therefore, you are number 1 on my fraudulent list. There we go.
That was a long list. I guess working backwards. The Suns. We talked about the Suns last night on HQ. Bill and I were on after the Suns beat the Nuggets. Good win for them. Nuggets didn't have Jamal Murray, which has kind of been a problem for them. But still a good win for the Suns. I still am not really sold on the Suns either. They have 9 games remaining. All 9 games are against playoff teams. And we've talked about their fourth quarter woes. So I think they deserve to be on the list. The Clippers are slipping. I've kind of zoned out there after a couple of them. You were going for a while. We're going to go through mine. I'm going to go one by one on mine and let you react.
I wanted you to just react all at once. So
I was trying. It was but we'll do it. We'll do it a little bit slower on my list. Go ahead, Aaron, throw mine up there. All right. The 65 game threshold. We've talked about that on this show previously. In order to qualify for various awards this season, the NBA instituted this like wholly arbitrary and capricious number. They just like threw a dart at the board and decided 65 games is what we should do. It was working fine before. Like if all of a sudden Joel Embiid had played 64 games at the rate that he was playing previously, you're telling me he shouldn't be in the conversation for an MVP award, or Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell. There's a whole bunch of guys that aren't qualifying now, and it's going to end up messing with people's money, Ashley, because when they're going for contracts now, they're not going to meet certain thresholds in order to qualify for maxes or super maxes. So I think it was just a ridiculous idea by the NBA to go with 65 games.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's a weird number. I do think, though, there needs to be a threshold, obviously, with load management being such a huge issue in the NBA. And also, I mean, I believe it was Magic Johnson who spoke on the matter. He said, look, it also is directly tied to the business of the NBA. You have guys sitting out on games that either maybe primetime games, or you have people spending their money to go to X arena to see X player play, and they decide, you know what, my back hurts today, I'm not going to play because we have a long road trip ahead of us. So I do think there needs to be a threshold. I just don't know if 65 is the right number.
Yeah, it's not for me. This next one is on behalf of our co-host, Bill Ryder, who is not here. When we decided that we were going to do top 5 frauds, that's not really my bag. It's a little bit like hot takey, first takey. But Bill immediately chimed in our text thread, and 4 of his 5 frauds were Doc. It was Doc 1 through 4, and then Chris Paul was 5. So on behalf of Bill Ryder, I'm putting Doc's name into the hopper for the top 5 fraud list. The next one here, what did I have next? Oh, this is great. Bill, Ashley, and our producer, Aaron, are my number 3 fraud for mocking me over the Rockets. You guys the other day, yeah, I put you guys on my list. The other day, I was saying that I was super excited about the Rockets catching the Warriors and that I hoped that they would end up in the 10 seed so that I would have a 1-8 matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets, which I think would be super, super fun. And you guys mocked me.
No.
Yes, you did.
No.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth and shame the devil, as my grandmother would say.
No. We mocked you because you said that the Lakers and Rockets series would be more exciting than a Warriors Lakers series. And we said no.
No, I said Thunder and Rockets. I want a 1-8 Thunder Rockets series because I think that would be super fun.
That would be interesting.
But for ratings purposes, it would be a disaster. But the 3 of you got a preview of it last night. We had the Rockets against the Thunder in Oklahoma City last night. No SGA, but still went to overtime. Incredible game. Jalen Green is playing out of his head right now. I just want to say on behalf of true basketball nerds everywhere, I was right about the Rockets and you guys were not. So you end up on my fraud list. All right, number 2 ends up being the refs. We saw what happened last night in the Sixers game. At the end of the game, Kelly Oubre had a chance to win the game, had the ball, drove towards the basket as time expired, drew contact with Paul George up in the air. Looked like an obvious foul to me. Looked like an obvious foul to pretty much anybody who's not a Clippers fan. No call was made. Afterwards, the referees were asked about it. And in the conference with the pool reporter, they said, yeah, we blew it. It should have been a foul call. Okay, well, that doesn't help the Sixers very much, does it? Like, when the referees afterwards say, oh, we blew it. Oh, well, oops, we're going home. We've got dinner plans. That doesn't help the team that ended up getting screwed over. Happened to your New York Knicks earlier this season. And we are like a week and a half, 2 weeks removed from the referees taking 20 minutes to go through the Warriors and Lakers game because they quote unquote wanted to get it right. They almost killed Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck was sitting on the side of the court, looked like he might die there on the side of the court, waiting for them to finish this off. But then in the Sixers game, they're just like, meh, I don't know. Game's over. This is a disaster for the NBA.
Yeah. It's also probably Ben Affleck was also probably miserable because he was at the crypto watching the Lakers and not in Boston watching the Celtics. So that probably contributed to his disdain for the situation.
Yeah, well, we all had disdain, and like I don't know, the NBA really needs to figure something out here. And post All-Star break, there was a lot of talk about why scoring had dropped, and the NBA insisted that there hadn't been this league mandate, this league directive to referees to stop calling fouls on players like hunting contact. But clearly something has happened here. Clearly the referees have been directed to just like let certain things go, which is fine. I like a little contact. There's, a little dusting of NBA, a little dusting of NBA from the 90s, like physicality is okay. But when there's an obvious foul that swings the game like last night, like call the foul, please. Last one for you is me quitting the Sixers. All right. I am the number 1 fraud on my fraud list because so last night, Nick Nurse said, hey, we expect that Joel Embiid, he said, I'm paraphrasing here, that he was pretty confident that Joel Embiid would be back before the end of the regular season. And then Woj reported that, are you all right? You got your neck looks like it's not doing great.
I don't know why you guys you want to do this to you. But go ahead. Okay.
Then Woj reported that it's not a matter of if, but when Joel Embiid will be back. And then right before you and I started to do the show, the Sixers tweeted out with absolutely no context a gif of Joel Embiid eating an apple, which I think might be a good thing. I was out on the Sixers. I said I couldn't do it anymore. And now this might surprise you. I'm so back in. I'm ready to back your hands, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers. Stomp your feet, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers. I love that song.
Is that a real song?
You don't know that song?
No, I don't know that horrible song. What was that?
Oh God. First of all, not horrible. Really amazing. It's the Sixers anthem, and they play it after every win in their arena, and it is a bop.
I don't know what's worse, that or Fly Eagles Fly.
Oh, this is such a good 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
Oh my God. Let's add this to another
song.
reason why I have a disdain for Philly fans, sports fans. This song, go ahead and put that right under Fly Eagles Fly.
We're gonna bring that back.
Of other things. That was horrible. Aaron, don't ever play that song in my presence again. Joel, stay home, bro. Don't do it. Just stay where you are, okay? And you guys stay where you are too, because after this break, we're going to talk about, Kelly Oubre going at it with the refs in Philly, but we're also going to talk about this crazy offer that Caitlin Clark received from the Big Three and how it's causing a stir on social media. Be right back.
You came down here to tell us that your date is missing.
I did not get ghosted. I think he was taken.
You were dating as a way to face your divorce. Was I really the only thing holding you together, D?
Damn.
Ready or not,
I am in search of a man with whom I had a beautiful connection.
You can't hide.
If anything feels off, we'll go. Off.
Murderer.
Who are you?
Diara.
Diara?
Welcome back, everybody. Ashley here, John here. And John, what would you do for $5 million?
Quite a lot. I don't know how much of it I could talk about here on this program. It's a family show, Ashley.
Would you play in the Big Three or attempt to? Can you hoop? Are you a hooper?
There was a time that I could. I'm old now, so DMP old. I retired from my amateur career a few years ago. It takes more recovery time once you get older. You'll learn this eventually. You're still very young, but like I still run a lot. I still work out a lot, but playing basketball, I've learned my body. I'm not sure. Plus I don't really want to go out to a court and get dusted by some 20-year-old. So now I'm just watching and talking about it. It's better for everybody.
Are you like a LA Fitness all-star in these days, or whatever the gym is out there?
No, I mean, I used to play a lot in Philly. My game was okay. I can't shoot at all, but I like to say that
are you a point guard? Are you more of like a facilitator?
Yeah, point guard, good passer, defender, couldn't shoot even a little bit. And I'm also not a large human being. So a lot of limitations on my end, but I've always loved basketball. It's always been my favorite sport, which is how I ended up getting paid for it. But if somebody would pay me $5 million to do just about anything, let alone playing the Big Three, I'd be in.
Okay, well, listen, maybe we'll get you an offer next so we can all watch that and see how that goes. But for now, the offer is going to Caitlin Clark because Ice Cube confirms that he offered Iowa Hawkeyes star Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in the Big Three. Now, the deal would be for 8 regular season games and potentially 2 playoff games. It would also allow her to play in the WNBA. Now, that initially got people like, wow, that's a lot of money. $5 million to play in the Big Three. Sign me up. I'll do it. But then things got a little bit sticky on social media because Ice Cube responded to TMZ, who initially put the story out there. And he said, we intended the offer to remain private. No, you didn't, but okay. While Caitlin Clark plays for the championship, but I won't deny what's already out there. Big Three made a historic offer to Caitlin Clark. Why wouldn't we?
Ashley's
what?
Video might have cut out.
My video cut
she's
out?
back now. Yeah, but you're back. You're back. Look at that.
I'm back.
The internet was a little dodgy, and now you're back. You're telling us all about Ice Cube.
Basically, he said that the offer was intended to remain private. And that now that it's already out there, he's going to not deny it and say, yes, they made a historic offer to Caitlin Clark. Why wouldn't we? She's a generational athlete. And that's where people started to have the problem on social media, specifically fans of the WNBA and current and former WNBA players, because they say while Caitlin Clark is a phenom, there have been a bunch of other highly successful, highly skilled WNBA athletes, collegiate athletes that have come before her, and you have never taken any interest in them and offering them something like this. So why should we believe that all of a sudden you're an advocate for women's sports? John, where do you stand on the matter?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty transparent, right? The reason why he wants Caitlin Clark to play in the Big Three is because it would be good for the Big Three. It's not some like really altruistic move by Ice Cube. Ice Cube looks at Caitlin Clark, and rightly so, and goes, man, she's got so much heat around her right now, so much attention around her right now. Wouldn't that be great for my nominal league that has like nobody even knows when it happens. And then when it does happen, people are like, oh, there's some basketball happening. And I guess it's okay. You got a bunch of NBA geriatrics out there running around playing basketball. Caitlin Clark would be a boon for them. And if I were Caitlin Clark, I'd take that $5 million too, because I did the math for 10 games. That's $2 million a game. And nobody's making $2 million a game, not in the NBA or anywhere else. So take that money and enjoy it. As Bill had mentioned yesterday, she's made like something like $3 million in NIL money. But I think she should take that money, take the NIL money, and then go to the W, because the high salary in the W, and I'm approximating here, but I believe it's just slightly north of $230,000. This is considerably more. She could do all of it.
Well, it looks like she probably won't be playing in the Big Three, because an hour ago, the U.S. women's national team training camp roster was announced, and Caitlin Clark has made the finalized roster along with Brianna Stewart, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum. The list goes on and on. So that kind of takes the Big Three out of her realm of possibility, if that even was a possibility for her. But it is interesting. I mean, I think that the sentiment behind it is, at least I want to think that it was good-hearted, but I do understand the frustration of maybe some fans of the WNBA and former and current athletes, because they say, hey, look, you know, Sabrina never got an offer. Stewie never got an offer to play in the Big Three. You have Asia Wilson never got an offer to play. And these are all athletes who are at the top of their craft. Not only were they at the top of their craft currently as professionals, but also collegiately. Stewie went to 4 NCAA finals back to back and won every single one. So I guess people are kind of saying, yes, we understand kind of the chaos that's surrounding Caitlin Clark right now. But if you really wanted to do this, you know, in the article, it talks about how he wants to show that WNBA athletes don't have to go overseas and things like that. There were a lot of other athletes that you could have gone ahead and started carving this path out before you even got to Caitlin Clark. And I think that's where people maybe rub the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a merit-based thing, right? It's not a talent, but everything that you're saying is correct. If you're looking at the best women's basketball players in the world, you just rattled off a whole list of them.
Right.
Should they have an opportunity to play the Big Three? Sure. But the reason why Ice Cube is even mentioning this, knowing almost certainly that Caitlin Clark wouldn't accept the offer, is because it's good promotion for his brand, right? I mean, she is right now one of the hottest names, not just in women's basketball and not just in basketball, but sports, full stop, period. If you mention if you just had to name a bunch of people in any sport that people are talking about right now, Caitlin Clark is going to be on that list. Like, she's much watched TV. The other night, there was a whole bunch of NBA games on, and you and Bill are in our text thread talking about the Iowa game. And I didn't blame you. I was checking over like in between commercials to see what she was doing. So just because there are other good basketball players out there doesn't mean that they have the promotional ability that Caitlin Clark does. So it doesn't surprise me that Ice Cube's trying to make a buck off her.
And before we close out the show, Kenyon Martin said on, I believe it was Gil's Arena, that Caitlin Clark wouldn't score a single point in a Big Three game.
Which is silly. It's silly. I mean, it's silly. Like, guys who go, women can't play basketball or whatever. When we had the 3-point contest with Steph and Sabrina, it was like, she's obviously a shooter. Caitlin Clark is obviously a shooter. Shooters shoot. You run her off a dribble handoff or something like that, and she's going to fire one away. It's just silly for guys to go, oh, she wouldn't be able to score. It's stupid.
Would you be able to score a point in a Big Three game? That's the real question.
Would I? Absolutely not. I'll tell you a quick story because I know we have to go. So years ago when I worked at the Philadelphia Inquirer and I was a columnist there and I was still playing basketball, the Globetrotters came through town and they reached out to me. Yeah, I always loved the Globetrotters. They reached out to me and they said, "Hey, would you want to do something with us? We have this thing where you could play for the Generals, which is the team that always loses." And I was like, absolutely, I want to play for the Generals. That sounds awesome. So they put you into the game and they're like, we're going to give you the ball. Let us know where you want it. And you're going to get what amounts to a wide open shot. And, you'll get some run. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to take one from the right elbow. It's my spot, right? Mid-range jumper, Chris Paul style. So I dribble into my spot. They pass it to me and I jack it up and I airballed that. And that was my Washington Generals career. Yeah, it was terrible. It was really embarrassing.
That is the beginning and end of John's professional, semi-professional career.
Semi-pro, yeah.
Semi-pro. Okay. Listen, it's a good thing that you can talk basketball because clearly you can't play. So that's where we are.
We can't be all things in this world, so I'll take it.
Listen, but we can go ahead and come to the end of this edition of Beyond the Arc Top 5 Thursdays. Make sure you guys are subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing with your friends, wherever you get your podcast. And make sure you tune in tomorrow because it's Guys Day and John and Bill will be down here holding down the fort. You don't want to miss it and whatever craziness they get into and the NBA provides us with. It's going to be a good show. So make sure you guys lock in. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.